So the questions, so in the next portion of the panel, we're going to be asking some questions from the engineering cohort to you guys. So Pranav, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So some of the questions we got from engineering cohort, maybe I'll go with the first one. So for Xavier, I guess, what are the benefits like you think joining Engineers Australia as a university student, opposing after graduating or something?
Yes, I guess the little differences between student membership and graduate membership. We've started developing exclusive membership benefits for that particular cohort of graduate members. That is working closely in collaboration with the Young Engineers Australia group as a whole, and myself in particular collaborating with the Victoria branch. So one more touch quickly on the Mentor Match platform, for example, that's exclusive to graduate members only. The Mentor Match platform is, we have over 450 mentors who are, I think predominantly, the majority are chartered engineers. So they're members, experienced, highly experienced engineers. And on this platform, mentees, once again, graduate members only, can seek to connect with a mentor, whether it's in their location or not, state, it can be a state, interstate connection in your field of engineering or not. That doesn't, it's not a requirement. And this mentor match platform, it's a program that lasts 6 months. So the next intake will be in end of January, February, beginning February 2021. But once again, there's more than 450 mentors ready to share their experience, share their knowledge to mentees. So that's an exclusive graduate membership. We also have bite-sized learning, which is online modules, online training modules that are matching the chartered competencies. So those 16 competencies, units of competency that you need to obtain to be a chartered engineer. And we also have more and more exclusive graduate webinars, events. But nevertheless, membership as a student is extremely important. Just to start off, day one from your first year at university, it's very important to be a member of Engineers Australia. You get that post-nominal, as I mentioned. You can transition afterwards from student to graduate 0. That's to look into once you've graduated. There are things like tertiary awards. Every university, we have Engineers Australia tertiary awards, so have a look for those. And as I talked about in my presentation, all these technical events or non-technical events, start building your friendships with YA groups. Things like our case competition, that was a great initiative that came actually from the Victoria branch of the Young Engineers Australia Committee. We'll try to develop these every year, but these will be only competition accessible to student members. Try to find a real life problem to solve over about a week period, I think. A complex problem to solve in a real life situation, which will help students, I think, see what real life or professional life will look like. Try to solve a problem, manage their time, plan teamwork, all sorts of skills and attributes that you need to be successful. So finally, just the student membership itself and Engineers Australia membership. We like to say it's not what you know, it's who you know, even though engineering is a very technical, you cannot wing it in engineering, but it is also extremely important to build on those people skills, those communication skills, and it's not what you know, it's who you know. Never underestimate the power of your network. We have over 100,000 members, and those are just in the members. We also have several non-members who attend our events. So, last but not least, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's not because it's free that it's not valuable, but it is a free membership for students, so it's kind of a no-brainer. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, well said.
Beautiful.
You.
I'll take the next one then. So this one might be a bit more specifically targeted towards Shani and Omar, but because considering both of you are working in pretty big companies as process and chemical engineers, specifically, I think it was Oricon and Pfizer, correct? Yeah. So given your experience as recent Monash graduates, personally, what are some skills that you feel like would have complemented your time in industry? So it's maybe something that you've learned or just from experience, something that the chemical engineering audience could benefit from?
Yeah, I might take this one. So I guess one thing coming into the industry, what I realized is the importance of communication and just soft skills around that comes from uni. So when you're in uni, you're pretty much doing your assignments, design project. You don't really think of all these things. You're all about theory and assignments. But what you don't realize is with all these group activities that you do, the meetings that you run, you're also developing your communication skills and your leadership skills, which then turn out to be a very, very important skill when you go into the industry. Because when you, in my case, when I first started working, there was this whole bunch of contractors and stakeholders that I had to communicate on a regular basis. People I've never met, and some of these people were even nationally based, so didn't even know what they looked like. But and that point where you're put into random groups in uni and you start having these first meetings and you get going from that skill really came into play right there. So I think these soft skills that you develop as you go along with your leadership skills and communication skills, they really come into play once you start your first job.
Wow, thank you. Omar, anything to add?
I did very much agree with Ashani about soft skills. It's very important. Another thing, the presentations and things that you do in uni as well, we take it for granted. Whenever we had a presentation in a subject, it was always a small percentage. It was more of a, oh, it's a presentation, easy marks, I'll get it. But once you actually, you're working and you have to present, a project that you've done, or you've done some sort of analysis and you need to present it to, leadership or just your manager even or your team. We take it for granted, but it's actually quite important to be able to articulate that information and what you've done and convey that to people. So again, on the communication side, but also very important.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe next question is kind of similar to the previous question Vinut asked. So would it be possible if you suggest some key skills or insight you would recommend for graduate engineers to try and exhibit and build their qualities during their undergraduate years? Anything? A question for Catherine?
Sure, I'm happy to have a go at it. So I think very similar to Ishani and Omar, I would say definitely communication and getting your point across and being able to structure an argument is really, really important. And it's got to be facts-based. It can't be, I've just got this feeling. I'm afraid that's probably not going to cut it. So being able to sort of, work from first principles or good scientific basis to be able to say, okay, well, I think this is what's going, this is what we need to do, or this is what's going to happen. But then be able to think about what the consequences are. So not just the answer, but then, well, what happens after that? So having a bit of a think about extending your thought process to maybe the second order sort of effect. I think the other bit is teamwork. So when you're a new graduate, you're probably going to be given projects that are reasonably narrow in scope or are involved working with a team just until people get to know you and know what you know and know what you're capable of doing. And then as you demonstrate really great performance, your opportunities open up a little bit more. And so being able to work effectively with a team, understand when you need to provide updates, when you don't need to provide updates, all of those things are really important skills to practice when you're at university.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And
So the next question might be for Xavier, but in terms of Engineers Australia specifically, and considering like a fresh graduate, how does Engineers Australia bridge that gap to help them merge with industry and potentially their future career? So what's that process like? Maybe a little bit of insight would be great.
Well, the process, how could I explain this? So a lot of my colleagues, we often talk about membership in Engineers Australia. It's an analogy with a gym membership, for example. I'll try to explain it clearly. You don't like go to your gym and go to the front counter and say, I paid my membership, now where are my muscles? It's not just because you remember that, you have to go onto the machines, onto the treadmill, etc.
Yeah.
Now, same thing with the membership at Engineers Australia. I think it's, we provide lots of opportunities, we provide lots of tools, resources, but there has to be a certain amount of effort, and students and graduates need to put themselves out there, effectively try to network, gain those skills, to transition, therefore, to the workforce. But those tools, that transition, okay, it is through groups like Young Engineers Australia, once again, because there you're getting insights from what we call young engineers under 35 years old, and early career engineers who were in your shoes not so long ago,
yeah,
who can give feedback on, okay, this is what I wish I knew when I was an undergraduate. These skills I should have worked on.
Exactly.
In my very first days, at Advisor, at Oricon, etc. And realizing that it's extremely important to ask questions. When you're a graduate, you're not supposed to know everything. You're supposed to ask questions. You have to try to ask the right questions. But it's a question of, first of all, putting yourself out there. What we provide, once again, is things like those, strictly speaking, tangible mentor match, bite-sized learning, online training modules, all these events, library of resources, databases, what have you. So yeah, we can't actually put it in front of our members, our graduate members, on a platter. This is a grad program. This is your application. Go for it now. Once again, on the Young Engineers Australia website, which was just launched today, you will have access to things like cover letter templates, resume reviews, how to use LinkedIn effectively. So that's very important. And I try to deliver these regularly on campus or now online, but things like how to use LinkedIn effectively. What's the purpose of LinkedIn? Okay.
Absolutely.
What else is there? Develop an elevator pitch. We also have tips on how to develop your elevator pitch, because when you're in a networking environment, the name of the game is to try to meet as many people as possible, and then nurture that with follow-up meetings, right? But you need to be able to concisely, in 2 minutes, be able to tell somebody, my name is Omar, I'm a graduate engineer at Advisor, and this is what I think we can do in getting an investment, etc. So we provide lots of tools. It's a question of digging through the jungle of resources we have on the Engineers Australia website. It can be confusing, but you as members have access to a member services hotline, always available to members. That's a long-winded response. Basically, the gym membership, we're not giving it all to you. You have to put a bit of effort into it. But
absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you.
Could I just actually add one more thing on that?
Yeah.
So from YEA's perspective as well, so actually we have a bit of a method for the sequence of our events throughout the year. So if you divide the year into quarters, we actually target, so quarter one of the year, we target it more towards events, more towards students and recent graduates. We look at things like, professional skills that you need to work on and develop for employment, where to look for employment, stuff like that. Then we move on to like quarter two. We target it more towards having just started your career. How do you develop yourself? How do you, work on your career pathway? How do you approach people and mentors? Then we go into quarter three. We focus more on soft skills and, what do you need to, emotional intelligence, communication skills, and those kinds of skills that you need to have in your, as an early career engineer. And then quarter four, we dig into deeper issues and deeper topics. We go into things like ethical dilemmas at work. One of the big events that we had is what do you do when you're backed up and the stakes are high. That's, things like that is what we tend to do in Q4. So you can see a transition throughout the year with our events as well. So
beautiful. Yeah, that's great insight. Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, so one last question, just to round off everything, and just a little bit of a personal note. Nothing too crazy. Basically, from it would be good if we could get some advice that you guys. So imagine if the audience was right here, what would you say to them? Because considering that these students that we're speaking to right now are the engineers of tomorrow. And so any advice, a tip, a saying, and a little bit of insight about how industry looks like, or how a career in engineering generally would look like. That would be really great. Who wants to start off? Xavier?
Yeah, sure. I'll preach for my little bit. Connections, obviously, and once again, don't underestimate the power of your network. So Engineers Australia membership, we're a very large community. We've been around for a long time. We're the largest, most diverse body of professional engineers in Australia. So the power of your network, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That would be just the first bit of advice. Other one, and once again, I'm not an engineer, so I'd rather let my only claim to engineers. My father was an engineer, successful engineer, and I respect the profession a lot. But another bit of advice, I think, of if you can, from year one at university, think about what will a successful career look like for yourself in terms of, and be honest with yourself. Is it a high-paid salary job? Is that what you're looking for? And there's nothing wrong with pursuing that. I guess financial and material comfort, but it can also be: are you more interested in solving complex problems? Is that what you're really looking forward to? Do you want to make an impact on society? Just try to have a thought about as regularly, what does a successful career look like for you, and then make those decisions. And it should work.
Yeah, and perhaps even like reevaluate it every couple of years, or maybe every couple of months, whether are you on the right path? What are some things that we can do to get on that path? Yeah, beautiful. Anyone else?
I'm happy to go. So I think for me, especially as a international student, I would say start networking early. For me, when just going into these networking events that Engineers Australia held, it gave me an opportunity to get to know the market team, get to know people, get to know companies, people working in different companies, and it helped me even get a couple of industry mentors that later on then became like really important to me when I was trying to apply for jobs, even for simple things as getting my CV reviewed. Is that something that I come from a different background? Is this the right way? Is this what generally Australian graduates would put forward? Sort of getting the advice really matters. So I would say start networking early. And then I think as a graduate, the best advice I've gotten is don't be scared to ask for help. Just because you have a degree from Monash coming out, that does not mean you cannot ask for help. So once you start work, naturally you wouldn't know what the company's processes are in doing a certain job. So it's okay to go out there and you're like, look, I need some help, I need to figure this out. And that also speaks to your problem solving skills, because you're actively looking to do the right thing, speaking to the right people. So I think that's 2 pieces of advice I'd give.
Wow. Thank you.
I guess I could go. So basically for me, it would be you've got 4 to 5 to 6 years in your degree. Take that time to explore different careers, different areas and fields of chemical engineering. Do internships as often as you can in the summer breaks, or even during the semester if you work part-time. It's really valuable, not just to when you graduate work experience already, but also because one thing it's really helped me with is finding out what I do want to do, or rather what I don't want to do. I've done quite a few internships, and I thought, because I started chemical engineering thinking, oh, this is a career path, this is the industry I want to work in. It was oil and gas at the time. And I did quite a few internships in oil and gas, and then in different areas and different departments. And then I figured, I'm not too sure. That's not what I want to do anymore. And then after third year, that heavy hitting year of chemical engineering, you've just finished transport and transport phenomena and all the tough subjects, separation processes, and you're just sick of chemical engineering. I decided, you know what, I'm going to try something different. I went in a online tech startup and did business development as an internship.
Wow.
And then I figured, you know what, maybe engineering still is for me. I'll continue, I guess, my fourth year and finish what I started. So yeah, it's a great thing, not just to show experience,
Absolutely.
but to learn about yourself and what you like and what you want to do. So definitely that's my advice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I think like they're all really great answers, and I think really good themes. And I did noodle around with a couple of choices, but in the end, I landed on be curious is the most important thing, because being curious allows you to explore things and be open to different ideas. But also when you're working on a problem, thinking about, well, is this right? Is it the best answer I could get? I don't quite understand this. I need to go and ask some more questions to be able to really get to the answer, because that kind of stuff leads you to not just, oh, well, it's good enough or it's not currently a problem. It's, no, what can I do that's better or getting a better result? And I think it all comes from, a lot of that stuff comes from, if you're curious, all of that kind of stuff falls into place. If you're not so curious, it's just that little bit harder. And I think being curious leads you to do the kind of things Omar has done, which is try a whole different.
Thank you for all the feedback, everyone. It's been really great having a chat. I'm sure Pravnash has more to say.
Yeah, so it was like really awesome, and I got so much information from this panel. I totally agree with everything, specifically what Omar and Ushani said about the year 3 stuffs. Yeah, I agree with those. So that's the point to decide like whether I want to do which stream, maybe like each and every sector of chemical engineering, and then we change our mind. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. And science. So because I'm a second year student, and we're just kind of getting used to chemical engineering and finishing off just the general engineering principles, and starting to kind of get a taste of what chemical engineering looks like. So, but I'm sure everyone watching, so first years, mechanical engineers, anyone watching can benefit from this panel. And once again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming through, and we'll keep in touch.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for having us.
No worries.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Bye.
Stay safe.